Hopefully you already watched my first video where I introduced various subtypes of the disease known as mucopolysaccharidosis. There I mentioned that since each subtype already has so much detail to discuss, I will be making separate videos for each. So this video would be for the first subtype, which is mucopolysaccharidosis type 1, consisting of Hurler syndrome, Scheie syndrome, and Hurler-Scheie syndrome. Let's go over the basics as a refresher. Whether MPS I would be called Hurler syndrome, Scheie syndrome, or Hurler-Scheie syndrome depends on how severe the symptoms are. So imagine there was a spectrum with the mildest symptoms on one end and the most severe symptoms on the other. On the severe side, you have Hurler syndrome, and on the mildest side, you have Scheie syndrome. Whatever's in the middle would be called Hurler-Scheie syndrome. The point is, nomenclature depends on the severity. Okay, now with the nomenclature established, let's cover some additional info I was not able to mention in my brief introduction video. In 1917, a doctor named Charles Hunter wrote a paper simply titled A Rare Disease in Two Brothers, about two male patients aged 10 and 8. They were shown as being undersized while at the same time having heads that are too big for their bodies. For reference, this is the image of the two brothers. Other symptoms that are listed include a small umbilical hernia, a very short neck, saddle nose with quote-unquote large, thick nostrils, and most importantly, difficulties in movements by the joints. While these are some of the outstanding symptoms, it's also important to note that they were mostly healthy, of average intelligence, and they had a good appetite. Hunter couldn't find any previous reports of condition that fit all the symptoms of the disease that those brothers had. Turns out, what he had discovered was MPS II. Although we are covering MPS I, I still felt I needed to start off with a little bit of history of mucopolysaccharidosis in general, so let's continue. I'm going to explain the whole process in which the symptoms of MPS I are the results. On chromosome 4, there is a gene called IGUA, which codes for the enzyme alpha-L-iduronidase. If there is an excess of heparan sulfate and dermatan sulfate, iduronidase is supposed to break them down to lower their numbers to a safe level. But what if the iduronidase enzyme is absent? As I have explained in the previous video, heparan sulfate and dermatan sulfate would keep piling up in excess, putting so much pressure on the lysosome that it cannot properly do its job of cleaning up other waste products. You see the problem here? A slight change, just a slight change, it's able to inflict a whole lot of damage through a cascade of chain reactions leading to the symptoms we end up today, the symptoms of MPS I. Out of the three types of MPS I feel like I need to start off with Hurler syndrome. The symptoms are not present at birth, but they do start to become more apparent by the age of 1. Symptoms include and visual impairments. Specific neurological issues that can happen include abnormal development or the possible decline in cognitive functions, hydrocephalus and epilepsy as its secondary symptom, possible cord compression which can be fatal, and hypotonia. Without treatment, they would probably die at between the ages of 6 and 8. While Hurler syndrome is the most severe version of MPS I, Scheie syndrome is a significantly milder version. Like Hurler syndrome, Scheie syndrome is not immediately apparent at birth, but since the symptoms are milder, they start appearing way later than Hurler syndrome, at around 5 years of age. It carries similar symptoms like sleep apnea, corneal clouding, and heart diseases, but they are less serious or life-threatening. Neurological conditions are not as pronounced, and most patients would have either normal intelligence or a very mild developmental delay. Patients of Scheie syndrome will obviously live longer than patients of Hurler syndrome. The majority of Scheie syndrome patients can be expected to live to adulthood. To demonstrate what I'm saying, I'll show the following images of the symptoms of MPS I. While these symptoms kind of look dire, not everything is doom and gloom. On my next video, I will showcase ways that people are using to stop or slow the progression of symptoms. So again, stay tuned for the next video.